Hello, are you ready for your word problem of the day? I want you to go ahead and get yourself set up. You're going to set up your problem just like we normally do. And I also want you to write the word cubs on the side. And then I'll be doing the cubs for you. So go ahead and get that set up and then we'll get started. Here's our problem for today. A dog hides 11 bones behind his doghouse. Later, his owner gives him 5 more bones. How many bones does he have now? And you can see I went ahead and did this for you. So we circled 11 and 5. And the words that I underlined here were bones and now, because it wants to know how many bones does he have now after he already had some and then his owner gave him more. And then I went ahead and boxed the question. Okay, so the question we're answering is how many bones does he have now? So we have to take the bones that he had, put them with the bones that his owner gave him, and then go from there. So we're adding this time. So let's go ahead and draw 11. We're going to draw a 10 frame. So we're going to draw 10, 1. So here's the 10, and then we have our 1. So 10, 1 is 11. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our 5. But you'll notice that as I draw my 5, I can't draw them all on the top because I can only have 5 on top, 5 on the bottom. So I already had 1 on top, so I only had room to draw 4 more. Okay? So now I have 10 here plus, and now I have 6 outside. 10 6s, 16. You got it. Now, well, I forgot to do this, didn't I? You didn't tell me I forgot to cross off the C, U, and B. Now, we're going to fill in our number bond. So, we're trying to figure out how many bones he has. So, we're going to say the ones that he had by his dog house, I'm going to put D for dog house, we had 11. And then his owner, O, gave him 5 more. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to punch 11 and count up 5. So we're going to go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I believe we have 16, which if I look here, it matches. Now another way I want you to do this is this. If I see 11 and I see 5, I want you to start thinking of it like this. I know that the 5 is considered ones, and I know right here, this one are also my ones. So I have 1, 1, and 5 ones. Well, I know 1 plus 5, or 5 plus 1 is 6, and then I have to put my 10 in front of it. So 10, 6 is 16. So I want you to start getting your brain looking at these numbers and start looking at them by dividing them into 10s and 1s. And then automatically you should start looking at, okay, do I have a pair of 1s or do I have a couple of 10s? You have to kind of look at it and see what you have. Okay? Now, we match so far. Now watch what I'm going to do. We're going to come up here and we're going to go, okay, we have 11 plus 5 because, what did we do here? We drew 11 and then we added 5 more. We came up with the answer of 16. But what I want us to do is this. I want us to break this down into 10s and 1s. Now my question to you is this. Do I put my 1s closest to the 5 or do I put my 10s closest to the 5? If you said the 1s, you're absolutely right. So I know 11 is 10, 1. That's where that counting comes into play. So I'm going to circle my 1s, and I know 5 plus 1 more equals 6. And then, of course, I bring my 6 down. You don't have to draw the arrow. So I'm going to go 6 plus the number I didn't use, which is 10, equals 16. Now, can I also do 10 plus 6? Absolutely. Whichever one is going to make you understand it the best, you can do. So I'm going to put 16 here. So now the question again said, how many bones does he have now? We're going to say he has 16, because this has to match all of these bones. And then you're going to put a period at the end of that, put this here, and then go ahead and cross out the S. That's your complete answer. Okay? So I want you to start really looking at these numbers as 10s and 1s, and you're going to see why as we get going through the lesson. All right, for part 2 today, what we're going to do is look at fact families and how do you figure out a missing part or a missing total. So let's take a look at our number bond. Our number bond is missing which one? Are we missing a part or are we missing a total or the whole? Well, let's take a look. We know that this one here is our total. We know that these two here are our parts. Now, let's take a look at how we maneuver around this. So we know that part plus part is going to equal our total. But what we also know is I can take my total, take out one of my parts, and it should leave me with the other part. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what our missing part is and then look at our fact family. So if I take 5 and I punch 5 and count up to 8, that should give us our missing part. Let's try it. 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like my missing part is 3. And you probably already knew that. But now let's do it in reverse. Let's do 8 and punch out 8 and then count back 5. So we have 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I landed on 3. So again, that's correct. But now let's see how we fill in our fact families. Now remember, a fact family is using only 3 numbers, and the other thing is that you have 2 addition sentences and 2 subtraction sentences. So let's take a look. So we have addition, addition, subtraction, subtraction, okay? We know that our numbers are going to be the 3, the 5, and the 8. But let's see how we figure them out. I know you could probably plug these numbers in with no problem, but let's see how we figure them out. So we have 5 plus something equals 8. Now we just did this one because remember we had the 8 and we had the 5. So again, I could punch 5, count up to 8, and come up with my 3. And we did that. 5, 6, 7, 8. So we had our 3. Now, what happens here? So this time, my 5 is in the second place. Same thing, right? Because we still know that this is our part. So we're going to punch 5 and count up to 8 again. And obviously, we're going to get the same answer as 3. Now, keep in mind that all you're doing is the switcheroo. Because look at I have my 3 here and my 5 here. I didn't add anything more to it. All I did was switch the position. Now let's look at the subtraction piece. So we have 8 minus 5. So we punch 8, we count backwards 5. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So I land on my 3, which I should, and we actually did that again up here as one way to figure out our answer. But now let's look at the second one. We're missing our total this time. So what do you do when you're missing your total? Well, you have to add your 2 parts because think about it. We add these 2 parts here to get our total. So obviously down here, if we just put it in a number sentence, if we have our 2 parts and we're missing our total, we have to add them together. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8. And you'll notice that in each one of these, again, those positions just switched. But I started with the total each time I did a subtraction sentence. And what I also want you to notice is that in all 4 of these number sentences, we use the same 3 numbers. That's what a fact family is. Okay, here we go. The lesson today is going to start getting a little tricky. So I really need you to stay with me and I really need you to focus. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our hundreds chart. Okay? So here we are. Now, I need you to remember that when we move on our hundreds chart, we could be anywhere on the hundreds chart. So I'm just going to pick the number 46. Remember, if I'm adding 10 to it, I have to just jump down 1 box. Now remember, these are your 10s, these are your 1s. If I'm adding 10, my 1s don't change. So everything in this column is still a 6. So if I take 46 and add 10 to it, the only thing that changes is this 4 goes up to a 5, so it's 56. Same thing if I was adding 20 to it. If I added 20 to 46, I make 2 jumps, 1, 2, and I'm at 66 because, think about it, 2 10s is 20. So let's think. So we have 1 10 is 10, 2 10s, 20, 3 10s, 30, 4 10s, 40, and so on. So you have to remember that. Remember that we're moving down and adding 10 each time we do, okay? So that's going to be important for you to understand. Now, let's look at 24 plus 13. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some cubes. and we're going to take a look at them. So we have 10, 20, plus 4 is 24. Okay? So there's your 24. What we're going to do now is we're going to add 13 to it. How would you add 13? Well, we know that 13 is 10, 3, right? So here's my 10. I'm going to put my 10 next to my 10s. And then I'm going to take my 1s and I'm going to combine them with my other 1s. So now I have 1, 2, 3 10s, and I knew I had 4, 5, 6, 7 1s. So my answer should be 3 10s and 7 1s, which is the number 37, right? So we have 10, 20, 30. 30 plus 7 is 37. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this as two number sentences by doing the number bond way. Now, you've been familiar with doing the number bond way. It's just that the numbers now are going to be a little bigger, but you're still doing it the exact same way. So watch what I mean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this smaller number, I'm going to take the 13, and I'm going to break it apart. I'm going to break it apart into 10s and 1s. Now, watch what I'm going to do. Before I said to you, okay, you're going to put the 10s closest to the 10s and the 1s closest to the 1s. But guess what? This is the first time we have a two-digit number we're adding to. This is where that hundreds chart comes in, because watch what's going to happen. I'm going to put my 10s closer to the number. So I know I have 1 10, which is 10, and 3 over here, because 13 is 10, 3. Now, I'm going to circle my two-digit number here with my 10s, and I'm going to write 24 plus 10. Now, let me pull out my hundreds chart again, because if you take a look, I'm going to put my finger on 24, and I just told you, you have to jump down one box to add a 10. So if I jump down one box, I know 24 plus 10 is 34. So I'm going to put my 34 here. But I'm not done. What I need to do now is I need to bring this 34 down and add it to the number I did not use. Well, I did not use 3. And you're probably going, well, I can't add 34 plus 3. You absolutely can, because if you punch 34 and count up 3, you can get it. 34, 35, 36, 37. So you were able to do that, 37. And take a look. Does that match what we have here? Absolutely it does. So what we're doing is we're breaking down the smaller number, and then we're adding the 10s to the first number we have, and then we're going to come up with an answer, bring it down, and then you're going to add the number that you have left over, which is the 3, to come up with your 37. 24 plus 16, right? So I'm going to have 10, 20, 20 plus 4 is 24. So I have 24. I'm going to add 16 to it this time. So here's my 10. Where does it go? Yes, we're going to put it next to the other 10s. So I know 16 is 10, 6. So here's my 6. Well, I'm going to add it to the 4 1s. What do you know about 6 1s and 4 1s? What's 6 plus 4? That's right, we have another 10. So let's take a look at what we have. We have 10, 20, 30, 40. So our answer should come up to 40. So let's take a peek and see what happens. So do you remember what the first step is going to be? Right, we're going to break down the smaller number into 10s and 1s. And we know 16 is 10, 6. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle the two-digit number plus the 10. And that's going to be our first number sentence. 24 plus 10. And again, when we look at our hundreds chart, we just jump down one box, and it's 34. But what I also want you to notice is this. Remember, we can look at it this way. I know that my 1s are not going to change because nothing's being added to it. The only thing we're changing is the 10s. So 2 10s plus one more 10 is 3 10s, and we know our 1s stay the same, so that's 4 10s, or 4 1s. So I want you to be sure that you're looking at the numbers as well. So you kind of have to like visualize the hundreds chart in your head, but you also need to look at the numbers and look at those tens and ones. Remember I told you in the last part, you really have to start looking at these numbers and dividing them up into tens and ones for yourself. So now we're going to bring the 34 down, add it to the number that I didn't use, which is 6. And again, you can do this. We're going to punch 34 and count up 6. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So we came up with 40, which again is the same answer we got before. I know it's a lot, but let's check out your homework and see how well you're going to be on page 87 and 88 today. Now, these are going to be a little harder than what you're used to, and there's a few more on the page than you're used to as well. So here's what 87 looks like. Now, they basically did letter A for you. What we're going to do is we're going to just actually drop down to letter E. And the reason I chose this one is because both number sentences are empty, and I want us to do that together. So let's take a look and see what we have. We have 15 plus 15. Now, they just chose one of the 15s to break apart. Obviously, it's the same number. So do you remember how we break it apart? Good. We break it apart into tens and ones. Now, here's my question. What order am I putting them in? Am I putting them into 10-5 or am I putting it 5-10? Doesn't matter, right? Because we can do the switcheroo as long as we haven't added another number. So you're right. We're going to put the 5 over here, and then we're going to put the 10 closest to the 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to circle these two numbers, and we're going to bring them down onto the first line here. So we're going to have 15 plus 10. Now, remember, we have our hundreds chart. I can actually just do this, put my finger on 15, and drop down one box, right? Because we can add 10, and it's 25. But watch how you can do it, because I don't know if you have your hundreds chart right in front of you. Check it out. I can say I have 110 here and 110 here, so that leaves me with 2 10s. And I know my ones don't change because I'm not adding any ones. I'm just adding a 10. So 25, which is the same answer I got using my hundreds chart. Now I'm going to bring that 25 down here, and I'm going to add it to the number I didn't use, which is the 5. So 25 plus 5. So I can go 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So your answer is going to be 30. Okay? So that's how we have it so far. I want to show you something though on the hundreds chart. Watch this. I'm adding 15 plus 15. So I first did the 15. I broke down the 10 and 5, so I jumped down 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Look at that. It landed on 30 just like it does here. Okay? Now, let's take a look at page 88. We're going to actually do 2 problems on page 88 because I really want to make sure that you understand this. It's a little tricky. So here we go. So we have 14 plus 23. So again, they put the smaller number first, and that's okay. You can have the smaller number first. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down this smaller number, and we're going to make sure that we put our tens closest to the other number. So 14 is 10, 4, but we're going to switch it around. We're going to put 4, 10. And then I'm going to circle my 2 two-digit numbers. So I have 23 plus 10, which is what? Now this time we're not going to use our hundreds chart. I want you to start using your noggins. So I know that I'm adding a 10. Which digit is your tens? That's right, the 2. So I have 2 10s plus one more 10, which gives us 3 10s. And then I know my ones haven't changed, so I know it's going to be 33. But I'm not done there. I need to now bring that down. So I have 33 plus the number I didn't use, which is the 4. 33 plus 4. So we have 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So my answer here is going to be 37. Now, here's a way to check it. So in this case, I can say, okay, I had 1 10 and 2 10s, which gives me 3 tens. Now let's take a look at our ones. I have 4 ones plus 3 more ones. 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 ones. So 3 tens and 7 ones is 37, and it matches. Okay? Now, we're going to look at one more. We're going to look at letter C now. Let's look at letter C. Okay, here we go. So, this time we have 16 plus 14. We're going to break down the smaller number. So let's break it down. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into 10, 4. Now, which way does it go? Am I going to do 10, 4 or 4, 10? We're going to do 10, 4 because remember, we're trying to make our two-digit numbers closest together because adding tens is a lot easier than adding the ones to it. So we're going to say 16 plus 10. So let's take a look. We're adding tens, which means only my tens are changing. So only this digit right here is changing. So I'm going to put my 6 in my ones place because I know that's staying the same. Now I add 1 10 plus 1 more 10, which is 2 tens. So 26, but we're not done there. We need to now bring the 26 here, add it to the number that I didn't use, which is the 4. So we're going to punch out 26 and count up 4. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So my answer is 30, but I want to show you something. What I also could have done is this. I know 6 ones plus 4 ones is 10, right? So I know I have 10, but I also have 2 tens here. 2 tens plus another 10 is 3 tens. So do you see how your mathematical minds can start working? You can start looking at these tens and ones and start adding them in your mind. I know you can do it. This is going to be a little difficult, and it's going to be a little, take you a little longer to do. So with that said, take a little break if you need to in between problems, or do a few problems and then take yourself a break and then come back to them. We're going to be a couple days on this, so I want to make sure that you really understand it. If you have a hundreds chart handy, go ahead and bring that out and see if that'll help you as well. Remember, send your work in to your teachers. If you have any problems, let us know.